So this morning I thought I would brag on one of my nephews because we had a fun, what I've started calling them light switch moments. I know some of you know the story of that my parents love to tell of when I was like 3 and my dad literally fought with me, not really fought, but made me stand there while I cried for about an hour to get me to turn the light switch on because I didn't think I could do it. And I'd cry because that's how you get out of doing stuff. And my mom had to leave the room. She's like, it's not that big a deal. Just let her go kind of thing. And my dad's like, nope. And thankfully, he's more stubborn than I am because I finally turned on the light switch and he said my face just lit up and it was fantastic. And last week in SWAT, we had a bit of a light switch moment with Isaac. I don't know if he remembers that, but Liam remembers that. But you remember what we were doing? We were talking about rejoicing. And I was just talking about like what the physical action of rejoicing is, and that's to jump up and spin around. So I did it. Liam did it. Isaac did not want to do it. And I asked him to do it. And we spent the majority of the class waiting for him to do it. And then he did it. And it was awesome. And I loved it because it was like, there were moments where I'm like, is this really that big a deal? Like, I should just let this go. We move on with our lesson. But it was like, no, for something in me was just, no, this is important. Because, and Isaac's thing was, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And then he'd say that he's scared. I'm like, why are you scared? I don't want anyone to see me. It is your brother and your auntie. I have seen you jump up and spin around and do crazy things. There's nothing scary about this. It's no, you don't want to do this. And the verses we were going through were in 2 Philippians, and this is what I love is verse 14, do all things without complaining or arguments. There's a reason for it, though. So that you will prove yourselves to be blameless and innocent children of God, above reproach in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you appear as lights in the world, holding firmly to the word of life, so that on the day of Christ Paul can take pride, because I did not run in vain nor labor in vain. So Paul's currently in prison, and he's pleased that he's in prison because this is furthering the gospel. But I had a thought, because how many of us are willing to go through a light switch moment with God? Where he's asking us to do something and we don't want to do it. So we cry and kick our feet and we do everything that we can to not to do it. Sometimes we procrastinate to such an extent that the opportunity is now gone. And yet Paul is saying, do all things without complaining or arguments. The world today is really easy to complain about, and it's really easy to get into arguments about how things should be. And God's not interested in that. Because in reality, when we complain, and especially when we complain to God, we are saying what you did is not good enough. I don't trust your plan. I'm like, this is the God of the universe who holds the whole world in his hands. He knows every single hair on your head, and we're going to complain and say that I don't trust you and you don't know what's best for me. As hard as it is to be stretched and to do things that we don't want to do, we often do things we don't want to do. Right? Just like Isaac didn't want to do a jump and a spin and tried to negotiate himself out of the jump to just do a spin, and then tried to negotiate it so that he could do it behind me and I didn't see it. And then was like, I want mommy. And I'm like, yeah, later. I don't want to do this. I know. I would still like you to do it. And you know what, Isaac? You did it. Right? And I was so proud of you. I gave you a big hug. I was so pleased, and you got bonus SWAT bucks for it, because that was like an intense lesson. And sometimes we will get an extra reward immediately after we do something that we really didn't want to do. Sometimes we don't. But we should be doing it because God's asked us to do this. So that is my Power 5 is don't avoid the light switch moments. Don't avoid those moments where God's asking us to do something that's hard. Instead, think about, why am I resistant to doing this? This thing that I feel like God is asking of me. Is it because I'm not getting my own way in this, that I don't like it? Do I say that I'm scared even though I'm just really don't want to be out of control? So I just challenge you to think on that and process those moments as they come up in our lives.